Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives, and today we're going to be discussing episode 10 of Code Lyoko, The Girl of My Dreams. I know the episode actually is listed as The Girl of the Dreams in the title card, but it's listed as The Girl of My Dreams on Amazon Prime, and honestly that sounds better, so Girl of My Dreams, whatever. But anyway, in this episode we meet Aelita's doppelganger. No joke. In the beginning of the episode, Jeremy is messing with Aelita's devirtualization program and once again is coming up with nothing, and Aelita keeps telling him that it's fine, they'll find. But Aelita's just trying to. And he just is feeling useless, and Aelita's trying to just kind of console him by kind of telling jokes, like saying, "Well, what makes you think that we'd be friends in the real world?" It's like I cannot. And talking, I think it was like crack about how she'd rather that she doesn't really want that she wouldn't like friends that are useless. That she'd rather have friend or something along those lines. Pretty much, it was something at Jeremy's expense that was just meant to lighten the mood. Either way, though, he has to get to class. He has to get to class. He has to get to class and leaves. But after he heads out, Aelita is suddenly attacked by something. In the real world, though, as Jeremy's in class, the school is introduced to a new exchange student named Talia, who, as I said, is pretty much Aelita's doppelganger. She looks exactly like her. She's not exactly the same. Like, her hair is like a darker shade of pink, and while her outfit does kind of evoke the same tones as Aelita it's not exactly the same. But otherwise, if you didn't know, you could easily mistake her for Aelita, and Jeremy immediately is convinced that it is her. The group Odd and Ulrich do try to convince him that no, it's probably not Aelita. It's most likely just a girl that looks like her. But Jeremy is still convinced that it is. And after they go to check his computer to try and contact Aelita on Lyoko, and they come out failure, he just thinks that his latest program was a success, and Aelita came into the real world. Odd and Ulrich try to convince Jeremy that it's not true, and even go to question Talia about about if she knows anything. But even when she doesn't want to talk about it and has no idea, but even when she denies everything, or when they try asking about, or more specifically when they try asking her about her past, she doesn't want to talk about it. And when they try questioning her about Lyoko, she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything. Jeremy just assumes that this is a side effect of the devirtualization, that she's just lost her memory. But the group is still trying to convince. But either way, Jeremy's convinced that this is just Aelita in the real world, and Odd and Ulrich are still doubtful. Because a plot needs to occur, at the same time we get our latest Xana stunt. In this case, Yumi, for a school project, is bringing artifacts from Japan. Is meant to bring artifacts is showing off artifacts from Japan to explain her culture. And one of those artifacts is a suit of samurai armor that's been passed down through her family. She had Ulrich help her bring it in a box, but Millie and her friend, the reporters, decided to go check it out for themselves. And when they went to and when they unveiled it, they pretty much left the door to the box it was in open, and it was right next to an electrical socket. So Xana went through that and pretty much possessed the armor, causing it to attack people. As a result of this, the police are brought in as the armor has attacked a few students and Jim, and so the principal is telling him about the assailant and is wearing samurai armor. Yumi gets pulled aside to be questioned because it is her family's armor, so they want to get some answers from her. And in the meantime, though, Jeremy assumes that Xana is going to be going after Talia because he still is convinced that Talia is Aelita. As she goes to talk to her and bursts into her dorm room, trying to tell her that she's really Aelita, but she doesn't really believe. But all this really does is just make her think that he's crazy. However, his story soon has a bit more weight to it as the samurai armor comes into the room, and Jeremy assumes that it's there for Talia, so they make a run for it. They manage to get away from the armor, but at the same time, Odd and Ulrich realize that with the samurai armor on the loose, it probably is Xana, so they decide they need to head to the factory, assuming that Jeremy will be there too. As such, after Jeremy and Talia get away from the armor, Jeremy immediately takes Talia right to the factory and brings her to the elevator, hoping that this will stir a memory in her, one of stirring her quote unquote memories. However, even when he shows her the supercomputer and explains that this is where Xana's from and this is where she was once called home, Talia still is a little hesitant. While she does start to believe him a bit, especially when he says that this is where Xana comes from, she doesn't have the reaction of, what do you need me to do? She has a reaction of, if this is Xana's home, then why don't you just shut this place down? Jeremy tries telling her, well, it's because that's where you're from. We can't just do that. But Talia says this place is dangerous, and Jeremy starts wondering. And Jeremy's still convinced that she's Alita, and if she is Alita and she's out in the real world, then that means that there's no threat in turning off Lyoko. I'm turning off the supercomputer. So he almost goes through with it. But Odd and Ulrich show up and pretty much tell him not to do it because they still don't think this is Aelita and they need confirmation. As such, Jeremy decides to give him the benefit of the doubt so they decide that he says he's going to send them both into Lyoko, the last place he spoke to Aelita, which was in a new sector of Lyoko called the Mountain Sector. And it's pretty much just what it says. It's just a whole just a bunch of floating mountainous masses just floating throughout this bit, just floating over the digital sea. It's kind of nice, It's kind of nice, rustic. Rustic definitely has the feel of the mountains. I like it. It's nice. My favorite so far is the forest sector, but still. Anyway, they go into the mountain sector and begin searching for Aelita, and they pretty much get confirmation that Aelita's here, as Odd ends up having a vision of Aelita in a Guardian, like when Yumi was attacked and replaced. As such, Jeremy realizes that Aelita is trapped in Lyoko, and so Odd and Ulrich go to try and find where Aelita was from his vision. Unfortunately, at the same time, when Jeremy goes to talk to Talia again, it turns out that she left, as she pretty much has the reaction that anybody else would have in this case: get the police. As she storms back to the school and is planning to go to the principal's office and get the cops to come to the factory so they can shut it all down. In the meantime, though, Yumi catches her after she sees her after she's let out of questioning, and she calls Jeremy about Talia, and Jeremy tells her, and when she tells them that she's going to the principal's office, Jeremy says that Jeremy tells her what she's going to do and what he did. Yumi, of course, is aghast, but it's at that moment that Yumi ends up finding the samurai armor, and because it turns out that Xana's target wasn't Talia this whole time. It was actually the Lyoko group, and the reason it went after Jeremy and Talia was because it was really after Jeremy. As such, Yumi ends up dealing with the samurai armor, while Odd and Ulrich manage to find Aelita still trapped in the Guardian. This time they can't. As they have no idea what they're going to be doing. They know that they have to try and find a way to trick the Guardian to letting Aelita go. Except now that they have Aelita trapped, it makes they can't just create a false image to fool the Guardian. But that kind of gets thrown to the wayside as Jeremy managed to cook up a computer program that creates a false Aelita image, and it once again tricks the Guardian to letting her go. As such, Odd and Ulrich bring her to a tower so they can restore her life points. And after she's revived, Jeremy's able to figure out that the tower that Xana activated to bring the samurai armor to life is in the forest district. As such, all three of them go to the forest district, and once they're there, they end up dealing with some blocks, which Ulrich and Odd end up taking care of, while Aelita goes to the tower. Unfortunately, things are cutting a bit close, as Talia has managed to get the principal and the police involved and she goes back to the factory, and she saw Jeremy inputting the code to get down to the factory, so she saw it, so she knows it. And so they're getting closer and closer, and pretty much the police arrive and see the supercomputer, everything. Of course, they want an explanation for Jeremy. Jeremy says, and while Jeremy says that he's worrying about Odd and Ulrich, the police the police just pretty much start hauling him away. And in the case of Yumi, she's still fighting with a samurai, defending off as best she can with a pipe, though eventually it knocks the pipe out of her hands and gets her cornered, as you do with this series. But just before it can make the killing blow, Aelita deactivates the tower, causing it to freeze up, and time is once again reversed to back when Talia was being introduced to the class. Jeremy, as such, now she doesn't know anything about the factory, and Yumi was able to make her presentation in peace, though they chain up its legs just in case. So overall, this episode is fine. And that's really all it is. It's just fine. Really, nothing really great happened in the episode. It didn't really do anything to advance the story. The most new stuff we got from the episode was the introduction of the mountain region, as that now brings the total up to 4, which is where it stays for the rest of the rest of the season. It's nice. I like the mountain region. It's nice. It's pretty cool. It's just what it is. I think my least favorite region is... and as a result... Sorry, I'll get back to... Sorry, I almost went off on a tangent. I'll get to that in a minute. But pretty much the mountain region is just what it is, mountainous. It's gray, it's dreary, but it's kind of nice. Got a nice, it's got very earthy, kind of vast and wide open. It kind of has the platform. Unlike the other regions, though, the platforms seem a bit more kind of a bit more claustrophobic, if that makes any sense, as they're all smaller and it looks like that you could fall off at any minute, which again makes sense. It's a mountain. It's close to a mountain sector, but it just kind of feels like there's not as much room to move around, is what I'm saying. And I know we've had sectors where we had stuff like that, but they've at least felt a bit more wider. And you can also even point to the forest sector. That's kind of had a similar appeal with certain smaller platforms, but again, it felt like there was still more. Here, it feels like that you could easily, all it takes is one misstep and you're pretty much doomed. But yeah, it's nice, and I guess since we've introduced all the sectors, I can give my full thoughts on them and just kind of rank them. I think my least favorite sector is the ice sector, and that's mostly just because it's just again with the staying with the video game vibe. I don't really like ice levels, and it just looks cold and a bit too, and just watching it kind of makes you feel a little uncomfortable. My second after that ranking above it is the desert sector. Kind of a similar problem, except it's hot and just kind of feels like there's a lot of nothing. The forest, then we get the mountain region, which kind of has a similar case, but it feels more closer together. Feels more closer together, but yet more spacious. So it kind of and I like the aesthetic of it, just kind of dark but still kind of open. And then finally you have the forest sector, and I like that just because I kind of like the greens and the forest, and it does feel like there's more stuff there. So yeah. But otherwise, there's not really much else to the episode. The closest we get to that is the stuff with Jeremy and Talia, as we see Jeremy kind of getting frustrated with himself as as he hasn't been able to perfect the devirtualization program, which is nothing really new in this case. But when he sees Talia and he sees Talia, in a way, it kind of makes sense why he would react the way he did, because it's obvious that Jeremy has feelings for Aelita. And the fact that he's continually failing to bring her into our world is just getting to him. So to finally have Talia right there. So when he sees Talia, every cell in his brain wants to believe that this is her, that it is Aelita, that his efforts finally paid off, and that they can finally talk and interact, etc. And I can understand that. It's desperation. He wants to believe that his journey is finally over and that she's finally safe. But at the same time, while that would kind of give some drama, I feel like it would have probably been better if I think the problem with the reason why I don't really get much from that is just how it ends. It's just kind of brushed off once they realize that Aelita is still in Lyoko, as he just kind of realizes, Aelita's in Lyoko. It's like, oh, that means Aelita's in Lyoko. I was wrong. You gotta go save her. Oh, Talia, and oh crap, I just realized that. I feel like it would have been better if maybe he said if he said sorry to how he was acting to Odd and Ulrich, or maybe and just kind of had a conversation with Aelita about the whole situation. But again, she was kind of oblivious the whole time because she was trapped in the Guardian. I think it would have been a better resolution than what we got as after the time rift, he actually shifts the blame to Odd and Ulrich, as you do since they're still kids. As if, it's like, yeah, she really doesn't look anything like Aelita. I can't believe you guys thought it was her. Like, that just feels like ep yours moment in that regard, so, yeah. But, otherwise, it's fine. There's nothing really new in this episode we haven't seen before, aside from the new sector and a bit with Jeremy, which, again, I think just kind of peters out. It's still got the tension. It's still kind of nice to see this suit of armor walking around as you see the Xana smoke running through it. So it's a viable option. And there is still an added bit of tension as we see Talia pretty much bringing the cops to their doorstep as they're getting closer and closer, and if they deactivate the supercomputer, pretty much that's curtains for everybody. But otherwise, it's still got the nice. So that's nice tension. I like that. But again, nothing really new in this episode we haven't seen before. New sector, potential character plot that just kind of peters out. But otherwise, it's still fine. We still have good tension, good action, creepy monster, and a new monster. Overall, just fine. Nothing great, just fine. So, yeah. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week. Take care.